Not understanding this is ruining players' accounts. And the main thing about it is that this is also going to cost you not only more resources, but more time to try to fix it. So, what I'm referring to is skill power and skill modifier. When exactly and why exactly is it required, and how to be able to tell when you need it, right? Now, we're going to be diving into obviously my account. I'm going to be basically taking you guys through the ringer of what I've experienced over the last couple of weeks since the launch of First Descendant. Now, I've been maining Blair. Ajax, Blair were my first two that I wanted to start off with, but I started to focus a little bit more on my Blair. Now, if we actually take a look here and go to my Descendant modules, I think number one, okay, when I was first looking at the character in my head, I just looked at, okay, what are his stats, attributes, and, how's he scaling to some degree, right? Like, really didn't look too much in depth as far as understanding the mods to what needs to be in conjunction to each skill, right? So I looked at this, it says Fire Dimension, right? And I was like, okay, cool. I just need to focus X thing, right? So what I actually ended up doing, which is something you don't want to do, right? Until you actually look at your character's kit, I went and made him Dimension Master, and I put Dimension Focus on him. Now, what exactly do these do? Now, Dimension Master is actually going to be giving you a raw skill power increase, 49.6%, as well as Dimension Skill Power modifier of 25.5%, right? And then you have Dimension Focus, which is going to be actually giving you value of Dimension Skill Power modifier and then a skill cooldown. Now, at the time of me doing this, and this is the first thing, I didn't actually understand the differences between Focus and Dimension Master and why they are so different. Dimension Master and Focus are very different because Dimension Master is focusing on increasing raw damage, but then still allowing you to have a multiplier or a modifier added into the equation. Whereas Focus on Dimension is just giving you the multiplier or the modifier, and then it's allowing you to be able to get your abilities back faster. Now, the problem with this is that a lot of people will go and build things not actually considering what is it that you are focusing. Your Transcendence is a lot of the times going to be your focal point in your build. So if you're building outside of the focal point, you're just not getting the value, and you're technically building your character wrong. And again, there's multiple ways to build your character, but whatever your Transcendence is, that is a clear indicator of what your focus point is or what your focus is, right? So my focal point in this build was the truly deadly cuisine, right? Now, if we take a look at this ability, why why looking at your skills is so important, and again, this is for those of you guys that are much newer, still trying to figure things out, is because it says it here. It's not like thrown in your face, but it is there, right? So if we look at the giant fireball, I was trying to scale the giant fireball. So I looked at it and it says skill power times 6,934%. Now, the thing about this is that 6,934% is an insane modifier, okay? That is an insane modifier. There is zero reason for me to be adding more modifier to try to get this to scale. What I would actually be looking for at this point is, one, I would be looking for the raw damage for this ability, which in Blair's case is fire, right? So that would be something like Focus Fire, for example, right? So fire skill power. And then, of course, it comes with the skill cooldown. Now, again, that's because I want to spam. There are some other mods that will give you additional fire skill power, but that's because I want, to be able to spam. So I went with the cooldown, just kind of build in general. So the other things is that I want this skill to crit. So, we got the skill concentration because of that, skill insight, emergency measures, frontline measures. We want that to crit and then have crit damage because the multiplier is already there. Like, that's a massive multiplier. So what players are having an issue with is that they are trying to add more multiplier when they need to be adding more raw damage and things that are going to have that doubling, right? Like critting, crit damage, etc. That's going to get you to those astronomical 8 to 10 mils that you see some of us hitting. And this is something that is obtainable. It's feasible, right? Like, I didn't pay for these mods. Like, this is just what it is, right? So the main thing is that when you are looking at much smaller numbers, right? So it'll say, for example, like let's say take for example my burn, and there's like other builds, for example, that's doing like DOT or continuous damage. You might notice it'll say like skill power, and let's actually change the build so you guys can see what I'm talking about, right? So let's say we take the same ability, right, Deli Kazine, but you'll notice that the numbers significantly drop. So what we're looking at here is Flame Zone. Now, mind you, in the other build, we don't get Flame Zones, so we don't care about Flame Zones and what that's doing because we don't get them. Whereas in this build, we are using the Flame Zone. So it says skill power times 36.6%. Now, if in my head, I understand that this is continuous damage and I want my continuous damage to do more because I know I'm throwing this fireball, enemies are going to be walking on it. I want to use it as a protective layer to keep enemies away from me, maybe a party, maybe in a dungeon, I'm farming something. So I'm trying to, say protect something. Maybe that's what I'm going for scaling wise. So what I would actually be looking for is not only just skill power, but I would also be looking for a modifier to add to that. So you still want to progressively scale that skill power, but you also want to be adding a modifier to that. So you would do something like, for example, here, where you would have like instead of this, it would be more so focused on like you would have like the focus fire, and then you would also have like depending on which one you want it more, you could do Dimension Master or you could do focus on Dimension. Now I say this to excuse the build. This is just literally something I just slapped on here, but yeah, you would want like the focus fire, which let's actually just do it so you guys can see it, right? So you would want the focus fire, which would actually take up this. Oh, sorry. Get that off. There we go. Boom. Okay. And then we would go for the focus on dimension, which would also be giving us the cooldown, right? So we're not only getting raw damage here, but we're also getting a multiplier for the dimensional skill power modifier. Now, the thing about this too is that, like I said, you could technically go for the skill power, but because this is a fire attribute ability and it is still dimensional, you want to take advantage of that raw fire skill power and then adding on the skill power modifier or the dimensional skill power modifier, right? So that's going to help me with scaling what that DOT is doing. I'm getting value from the, obviously from the burn, giving that more, from the burn or the skill power of the burn by giving it more skill power. But then on top of that, I'm then going to be increasing the multiplier. And then because I have all these things in conjunction for cooldown, I would add like, say, for example, nimble fingers, right? So just to kind of clean this up some. So like nimble fingers, there we go. Nimble fingers would be like something I could add, say for, like, for example, I'm trying to, let's take this off, right? Trying to cool this down more. So nimble fingers, we still got my iron defense HP. We're still going for some crits, some crit damage here. So it's not like too crazy all over the place. And then we would add whatever gold mod I want to add to this. Now, keep in mind, again, I did slot this Transcendence or socket this Transcendence. So yeah, the cost is a little bit higher than what it should be. It should be, I think, like 4 or something like that. Yeah, it should be like 4, but you get the general gist, right? So the main thing is that if you have a much higher modifier, you want to basically filter in what you are missing versus trying to add more modifier, right? And then same thing, if you have much lower modifiers, yes, you still want some of that scaling because that does help with the overall base number, but you really do want to try to emphasize the modifier so that you can then multiply it more. So again, this is just something that I wanted to make sure that you guys understood because like I said, I was capped at like 3.8 mil for a minute on my Truly Deadly Cuisine, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, I have Dimension Master, Dimension Focus. Like, what is the big issue here? And for some of you guys, you might be focusing like Singular or Fusion or wherever it might be, but you want that attribute in there, especially if they have an attribute for you to be able to get that scaling. Now, I don't know if, I think also non-attribute as well has some stuff as well. So let me actually see here. So I'm pretty sure non-attribute. So like, yeah, you have like Singular Specialist, which is for the modifier, right? You have non-attribute. This is raw skill power for non-attribute. So again, just kind of keeping that in mind, like whenever you see Singular, Fusion, Dimension, these are going to be modifiers, right? A lot of the times, if not all the time. But when you're looking at, like, for example, non-attribute or just regular skill power, it can be, for example, skill power in conjunction to a modifier for Singular, Dimension, or, Fusion, for example. Or it's going to just be the raw power, fire, skill power, toxic, chill, electric, etc. Right? So that's just something that I want you guys to grasp, because it's going to significantly help you with getting more. Like if you're trying to get more damage, that's going to be the missing piece of the puzzle. If you're trying to get more multiplier and then still have that constant of scale damage, you're going to need a little bit of both, right? So that's overall what I wanted to bring to you guys. I hope that this video was able to help you guys. Let me know in the comment section down below if there's any other things that you guys are struggling with that you would like to explain. I'm trying to simplify a lot of these things because I don't want to get too much into the math, because I know that a lot of you guys check out when you start seeing numbers. So I know that that is another thing that, again, it is valuable. But I also don't want to make it too complex to where you feel like you're in a math class. But just understanding simply, guys, if you see a high multiplier, go for, the raw damage. If you see lower multipliers, try to go for some of that raw damage, but also add in some more multiplier so that you're able to get a little bit more. So that's going to be basically that, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.